We are here. I feel like this is the only place I live.
Well, at least you've got a nice little corner of your house. You're not bothering anybody, Brett.
Right. I guess I can bother the fish and the
Did
ducks.
did you see Quinn Ewers
Oh my God.
the basement he was in?
Bass Pro Shop.
It sure was.
He needs to invite Shedeur Sanders over.
Did he even get drafted last night?
No,
He went.
he's it's a joke at this point. He is we're gonna talk about that.
Why do you think that is? You
I think he is
people not
he
wanting
bombed.
to deal with his dad, or
No,
what?
I think he's not wanting to deal with him.
Mm.
I just think that it spread like wildfire that everything I read, he did horrible and he came off as a prick and all that kind of stuff and very entitled. And if this is an investment. They're like, man, I ain't putting up with that. Especially if you're going to show me that in this interview.
Yeah.
So I think a message is being sent. Pittsburgh had a chance to get him twice and they turned him down. And some other teams, when you're taking Jalen Milroe over him.
Oh, yeah.
And even that kid from Louisville, man, no, you got to draft a quarterback. Yeah, that's some crazy stuff, man.
How much time we got?
I should have. It's almost 7, so we'll be ready to go here in just a minute. I'll let you know when we got 30 seconds.
Okay. I've got most of the main teams in my head and how they did last night in baseball. If you get a chance when you go to that topic, pull it up on your.
I'll put it up on the phone.
There's an email from Ron.
I looked at all of it last night.
Yeah, I think I've got most of the main ones close by us.
Yeah, we'll go down through there.
Calcie won easy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Why am I on this? Yep. All right, we got 30 seconds.
Okay.
Guess Luke will drift in whenever, right?
Well, he's probably soccer coaching today.
Just a drifter.
I feel him. We're off this weekend. I don't know how to act.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Been saying those two names for a long time, 2 decades, pretty much, as they've been longtime partners with us here on our program on Saturdays. Randy, good to see you this morning. Luke will jump in whenever the alarm goes off or he spins around or whatever. We'll get him in here with us. But ton to talk about this morning. We'll be with you for a couple of hours as we get rolling. And we'll take your comments out there wherever it is that you are tuning us in, whether it be YouTube or Facebook. Spring sports. Hey, there's only a few weeks left in school, which is crazy. And we've got some storylines on that. But high school season, the high school calendar year is coming to a close, and be graduations here in a few weeks, and then we'll be into the summer mode and all the camps and everything, and then we'll be getting ready for fall, man. It never slows down, it never stops. But some really, really good tournament baseball going on at the high school level right now. We'll go through some of that. Obviously, we don't normally talk a lot about pro sports on our shows, but the NFL draft has been interesting for many storylines that we'll hit this morning. Auburn and Alabama storylines, and of course the Shedeur Sanders drama of him continuing to just fall down the rounds and not being selected, and probably was the one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft. And so it has to be something external. He's got the skill set and everything. You and I both know that. So we'll dive into that too, and a lot more. But yeah, there's a lot coming to an end, and then a lot about to rev back up.
Well, just a great time. You and I love high school sports here in the state of Alabama, and spring sports bring more storylines than really any other time of the year, it feels like, Brett, with so many individual sports going on. The thing that I've noticed, you're coming to the end of track seasons.
Right.
Always massive storylines around the track seasons. We crowned a bunch of tennis state champions this week, and Brett, there are a handful of schools out there that win them every year. Their communities have just embraced that sport, and maybe we can hit on some of those schools, and some into the 30s now in state champions. Right. And no end in sight, because you're going to find, if you're interested in some of these individual sports, you're going to get them in a school that embraces those types. But baseball and softball, baseball's into the second round of the playoffs, Brett. We both know, with you being involved in broadcasting and around baseball for so many years, how much effort it takes to get to this time of season. It's not easy to get through. And when you get to the second round, you're going to have really good matchups in every sport. And we've got some great matchups here in the state that are going on right now. So you and I will talk about that in a couple of segments. One quick note that I wanted to throw your way as we start this morning, though, is the ever-changing world of high school sports, with so many private schools coming into the mix now, Brett. 20 years ago, when you and I started, there were a few private schools that were sprinkled into the HSA and had already made that decision to split from AISA and become a part of the association. And they were making buzz. The one that I can really remember, and then I'll kick it to you to get some of your thoughts, but Madison Academy.
Right.
I remember Madison Academy being up in the northern half of the state with Kerryon Johnson and others, getting through and winning state titles, but there weren't anywhere near as many as we see right now. And one thing I noticed looking down at the scores from last night in the second round as we head into the quarters in baseball, there was only one public school in Class 3A that made it through to the quarterfinals, Brett, and that was Winfield. Now, Winfield, one of the best athletic programs top to bottom in the state. They're 31-4 now on the season, so they've got a really strong team. But the rest of Class 3A, two really close to us here. Lee Scott gets through to the quarterfinals.
Right.
Glenwood gets through to the quarterfinals. They've been big-time rivals in all sports for a long time in East Alabama, and now they moved to Class 3A, and you kind of expected it in some of these sports. But Brett, it's taken me a little while to get used to looking down the list of teams that are moving on late into playoff runs and see so many private schools out there.
You and I have talked about this, and I know Luke's talked about it as well. And there are certain classifications that they're becoming more dominant in the private schools. And again, it has to do with the multiplier and where these schools, land, when you add that in their total enrollment. And so that just happens to be where a lot of those schools settle, because, most of the time private schools aren't really big. So when you add the multiplier in, they're probably a 1A or 2A by size, but then the multiplier, and then you add in, the other factors, they happen to land around that 3A mark, some in that 2A mark. But yeah, I mean, it's the trend. I'm not, I hate to say it that way, and I don't mean it in a negative tone, but these private schools are set up to where people can choose where they want to go. And if they want to pay the tuition or get a tuition waiver or whatever. And there's been a lot of
law that's about to go in place.
Right. But here's the whole deal, is that when you set up a situation like this, it brings about talk that we've had over the years of, should there be a separation of private and public when it comes to postseason? And I don't have an answer for that. I think there's a lot of moving pieces to that. You and I don't get paid to make that decision. And so, but at the end of the day, I think it's a real topic. I think it's something that when you look at it, and, some may argue with what we say on that, but, you can go out as a private school and you can take in, and I know there's people that will come back at me when they say, well, they're doing it in public schools and stuff like that. I get all that. What I'm saying is that it's set up where private schools have a built-in factor of a multiplier to try to offset the part where you can go out and have basically your choice of what you want to do. And I'm not saying they're going out and actively recruiting and bringing in people, but look, we all know what's going on all over the place, public, private, indifferent. So, but it's starting to take over in some of these smaller classifications. Then you can argue and say whatever you want to say, but the proof's in the pudding, and you look at the stats and you look at what you just brought up. I mean, it 3A is dominated by private schools, especially in baseball. And we see it in football too. We see it in football.
Probably softball too.
Right.
And I already know in basketball, because you and I made mention with that. When you watch these lower classifications in basketball, it doesn't mean that Spring Garden doesn't win 1A in girls. They do. But a lot of the teams that are getting deep are private schools. And I'm with you. I don't have a problem with it. The further I get down the line, the less I have a problem with it. But I do think you have to call a spade a spade. And what that is if you're expected to compete with that, then you want to put the best roster out there on the field that you can as said public school. I'm not in the room when these legislations are made. There's a lot of ex-coaches that understand how all of this game is played that are in the room, that are making decisions on who to bring the hammer down on and who not to. So you got to trust that the leadership that you put in place is going to make the right decisions there, Brett. But I think it's a storyline that's not going anywhere. It's a massive storyline. And the more transient, we talked about it the last couple of weekends, but the more transient society gets, and the more that Brett Pritchard's kids playing with a kid over in Sylacauga and Tallahassee from the time they're 7 and 8 years old, and they're growing up together with their families, and they get to the high school level and they'd like to play with each other, and they find a school that they all can combine with. And I mean, those storylines are out there. Do you like it, dislike it? Here's the deal. The private school, you don't have to sit around and worry about whether you like it or not. There's scholarships that are out there to go to kids that want to come to that school, and who wouldn't? In some of these communities, the public schools are so bad academically that they give no argument to come and play, that parents and kids wouldn't take advantage of being able to go to a school that's producing the way that they are. And so, look, until that changes, I don't have a good answer for you.
Well, I'll use one school as an example from my days at CAC. When I remember when Prattville Christian started, and they were a little old bitty nothing school. And I hate to say nothing. I don't mean it that way. I mean, a little old bitty tucked away, just a few students. And it was like, oh, there's a school over there. And, every year they just grew a little bit more and grew a little bit more. And, now they're formidable. I mean, they are a powerhouse in some sports, especially female athletics in the girls side and in the boys. I mean, we just went over to Prattville Christian and did a show not too long ago. That tells you the difference in where they are now and how far they've come when we did our on the road show there. When I look at the kind of shift in the direction of the HSA, look at and here's the deal. And I know we got to get to our first break. AISA sports. You've seen an influx of teams from AISA to AHSA. They're coming here because they want to compete. Sure. They want to compete at the highest level. And the AHSA, and again, it's not a shot at AISA, but it just is what it is. I mean, Lee Scott and Glenwood and all those teams were winning at such a rapid pace. And I remember the days when Lee Scott couldn't beat anybody in anything. Now they're, gotten to such a point where they felt like they needed to take a jump getting another association so they could give their student athletes, really good competition. So it has hurt AISA because there's just not as many teams. And, we know that there's some teams in AISA that have to go all over the place now just to find competition. But I want to stay with that. I want to go ahead and go to break. When we come back, I want to kind of continue my point on this. And I think it's valid that, again, you got to figure out how to balance this thing and what do you want to do with these teams. Obviously, they want to compete at a high level, but also from the public school side, you've put in elements. But, I'm not too sure that that rule maybe isn't antiquated at this point. So let's talk about that when we come back. But we're up against our first break. Just getting started here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. More to come right after this.
Boy, there's not an easy answer on this, is there?
No, not but I think what you got to do is during the regular season, you can play wherever you want to play. And then when you get in the playoffs, you split it up. And you just like you have classifications, you have your private and your public. And that's the only thing I know to do. And then when you look at, if you want to understand why facilities and things are important, if you care about athletics, okay, I'm not saying this is the only thing in the world, but if you care about athletics, Mike, the points you bring up all the time, about going to play with Johnny and growing up and stuff, that's just the way this is now. So you're going to go to the place that has a really good coach and has the facilities and the things that need to be in place to give the kids the best opportunities to compete. We can argue all day, and we can stay in the Stone Age and say, well, they didn't do that in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s even, and whatever. And that's fine. You can sit there and argue, but that's not the year we're living in anymore. We're living in 2025. College football, college athletics isn't anywhere close to the same thing that it was when you and I grew up. I don't like a lot of it. I'll be honest.
Sure.
But there ain't a dang thing I can do about it, except, I know we'll talk about Kentucky a little bit later on and what they decided to do. All of this is coming to a head because college athletics, to me, is completely destroyed. And they've got to figure out something to fix it because it is out of control. And I've had some conversations with some people this week that are massive NIL people for different colleges, and they're getting tired of it. They're worn out. They're worn out from it, man.
I bet they are, because it's got to be a battle that you don't think you're winning. But first off, you don't know the rules. The rules change daily.
Yeah, that's right.
You know how hard it is to play a game that the rules change daily?
You can't play it. Can't play it. And I think we said it 2 or 3 years ago. You can't keep going back and asking for more and more and more and more and more all the time. Even those people that have, and you and I said it, they got a lot of money for a reason and they're fine with donating. But at some point in time, they get tired of it too. And they're like, why am I doing all this for that? Why don't I just keep putting that in my pocket? And that was told to me this week by somebody and came right from the horse's mouth. And he's got a good point. Why do I want to keep buying, all these players and getting mediocre results? I'll just go put my money somewhere else and do it for my benefit.
Well, back to the high school side,
10 seconds.
You come back in with your thought that you had that you ended with, and we'll stick with that a little bit longer. And did you had the scores? Were you writing some scores down over there?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. You can get your comments in on Facebook and YouTube. Just starting off the program this morning, talking about just running down some of the scores from and results from baseball second round in the HSA from last night. And we'll go back through that and we'll talk about a lot of our teams in the local area. Now, I was just finishing up when we went to break about, the AISA is losing teams, and a lot of them are coming over here because they want to compete in the HSA, and they want to give their student athletes the best opportunity to compete. And again, I think what you look at is the only way I can see this maybe playing out, and I don't know if they go down this path or not, but play who you want to during the regular season, open schedule. But separate the regions. And I know there's a lot of geographic things that play into this. So again, I can't, there's no perfect answer here, but I was told, and you were too years ago, that might be a possibility one day, that in postseason that you split it up and have a private class and a public class postseason. And so again, you allow private schools to come into the HSA and compete at a high level. They can still compete for a state championship, and then public schools can do the same, and they can all play each other. But when it comes to postseason, you break it up into different areas. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but that's one possibility.
I think that's a long shot, but I think it's worth bringing up. I don't have the answers for this. I do look at many sports, and a lot of the people that would argue the opposite way would say, look at football, look at some of those sports, and it's not as dominant as you think if you really look in.
It's getting there.
I think not only is it getting there, Brett, I think the sway in the state away from, let's be honest, failing public schools to private or to charter or to other options that are coming on board daily that you see and I see that are out there is going to change the overall dynamic of high school sports here in this state even more than we have. And I think you got to have a plan in place the more that does change. And, I can appreciate bringing in teams like Lee Scott and Glenwood and others. I personally enjoy covering them. They're over here in our neck of the woods. It adds a team to the mix that you and I get to cover, Brett, because we like looking around. Like Tallahassee moves to the third round of the playoffs last night, winning both of their games. And
Right.
That's a Tallahassee baseball program that I think's won 6 state championships. They're one of the best overall in state history, and they've got a great tradition going on there. And we can keep going. Horseshoe Bend, unfortunately, on baseball loses both of theirs last night, but Brett went over and did a piece on Horseshoe Bend softball this week as they take a tremendous team into regionals, one of the top teams in Class 2A. And
number 3.
Brett caught up with one of our favorites in Hagen Whitard that is the coach over there. And she actually was an intern with us at one point in time, many, many moons ago, Brett. So we're real proud of the success that she's had over at Horseshoe Bend. My point is, the more teams in our local area that we get to cover is better for us if you're just talking. But from an overall standpoint here in the state, you've got to be able to look down, and I'll say even on individual sports, golf, track, all of these sports, they are very much dominated right now by the private schools. And I don't have a problem with it. It just is what it is. And I don't know a happy medium. I do know that, here's the hard part to argue. When the hammer comes down on the public school, so let's just say, I'm just going to give you.
I knew where you're going with it.
Let me give you an example here. Let's say my son's 17 years old, and he's a good athlete in Mobile, Alabama, and he's the 3rd string quarterback at Spanish Fort High School, and he's a junior. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Now, many moons ago, people would say, well, I'd have just stayed in there and I'd have fought it, and I'd have just sat there. Well, I mean, yeah, you just stayed in there and fought it, and you'd have never played. You can say it. Yeah, you just stayed in there and sat your rear end over there on the bench the whole time. Most of those that do say how to stay in there and fought it, that's what they did, or they didn't play.
Or they didn't have that chance.
Yeah, so my point now, though, is if you're 3rd string quarterback at Spanish Fort High School and
you're not staying anymore,
and Daphne needs a quarterback, and you know it, then you want your kid to have that experience. Which I'm telling you right now, my goal in sports for my 2 kids is they get a good experience.
You only get one shot at it.
I know how important it was. I know how important it was to me. And I didn't play any professional athletics and make any money playing sports, but I don't think there was anything I did in school that was more important to me than being around the coaches that I had the good fortune of being around and led by. And I think most of the things, or a lot of the things that come out of my mouth, are based around the people that I was exposed to at that really vital point in my life. So you want your kid to have those experiences. And you can say, well, I don't like that one. I mean, here's the deal. The parents that are making that decision, they don't care what you like. They don't care what your opinion is.
Right.
They are trying to do what's best for theirs. So I read that on a comment thread, Brett, actually, on some of the legislation that's coming down. And it made a lot of sense to me. Because, you know, there are schools out there that have grown so much and so much effort have been put into play that, you know, I'll talk about one that's close by us. You know, when you got 90 to 100 boys in each class trying out for baseball at Auburn High School, 90 to 100 now, by the way,
in each class.
And when I actually have a family member that's in this boat, and their son is a very good summer travel baseball player, good friend of both of ours, Brett, very good friend of both of ours. And his son's a very good athlete, but he doesn't make the team over there. So he transfers over to Lee Scott, and he's doing great. He's having a great. So what would you suggest to them? Let him not make a team and have the experience, or transfer somewhere where he's got a chance to have a wonderful experience playing the sport that he loves?
It's what it really boils down to, man.
It does.
I mean, a lot of people want, I know nefarious things go on, you know that, but 90% of the time, or maybe even higher percentage, people are trying to just do the right thing by their kid.
Agree.
And get your kid in a right position. And you're going to take them to a place that has a good culture, that has good coaching, has good facilities. And again, everything's not created equal. If you live out in the country and you go to a 1A school and that's the only option there, and there's not a lot of kids to compete with, then everybody's probably going to play anyway, right? But if you go to a major metropolis area that there's a school every 5 minutes down the road and they're all 7As, and there's bazillion kids trying out for every sport, you know, and like you just gave that example, you've got some really good athletes that, what are they going to do, man? They only are that age one time. Are they just going to say, well, this just happens to be where I live, and I guess I don't get a chance to play baseball. I guess it just wasn't in the cards for me because I can't make the team. Or do you go, and again, may not be exactly what they want to do as far as a parent or whatever, but it's important to that kid enough, and enough time and effort's been put in and money has been spent that they go, they can't play here and they are still a really good player, but they can go down here and they can start, and they possibly will be able to get a scholarship to move on into, you know, and help them get an education down the line, man. You know, people behind the keyboard and behind text threads and stuff are quick to judge and quick to point a finger and quick to accuse why things are happening. I'm not saying things don't go on, and I'm not saying that there's some schools out there that have abused things and have done things wrong. I'm just saying majority of the people out there are trying to do the right thing, I feel. That's it.
I totally agree with you. And I don't think that setting up things that keep that from happening is the best route for the kids' sake. You can say I mean, how about let's think about the kids' sake here, you know, getting the experience. The reasons that I put out there that I want my 2 kids playing sports and being involved in stuff, same as yours were, same as yours are. Doesn't mean they got to play football. Doesn't mean they got to play baseball. Heck, they may just be interested in fishing, but they may be going to a school that doesn't have a fishing team.
Randy, you know, Zach, and to cut you off, just want to say that you know as well as I do, and I can give this example. I won't say the school, but going into Braden's senior year, we had a private school reach out, and Braden played 3 years. So it's not like he wasn't playing. He was a starter his last 2 years in football, but he had somebody reach out and say, look, we'd love to have him come help us on our team, and he could really help us, could really contribute. And of course he decided to stay at Benjamin Russell, but that stuff goes on, man. And that's the way it is. And, you know, if he'd have been 4 deep, and, 3 guys in front of him and he had no chance, we probably would have, if as much as he loved that sport,
sure,
would have considered that, would have been an option on the table to say, look, hey, yeah, you're right. Let's go look at that, because I know you may want to stay here or whatever, but I just think there's a lot of people that get put in those situations and that they have to make a decision. It's not like they're looking to sprint out of town, but they're just trying to do what they can for their kid, because again, you don't get these years back. It's just like telling a kid when they don't play, and I know we got to get to break, Russ, so I'll finish up. But it's a kid that's sitting over here wasting away, not taking advantage of playing, and then they look back and go, man, I wish I would have done that when I was in high school. Guess what? When those days are over, they're over. The ship has sailed. You don't get to go back and try again. So, that's kind of it's on both sides. So let's get to break. Come back. We'll keep it going. Stay tuned. A lot more to come right after this.
Did Prattville Christian win, Brett? I think I read that was one of the ones.
Yeah,
are they in 2 or 3A?
I had it pulled up. Hold on, I'll tell you. Almost all the way down in 6A. They're in 3A.
I think.
Yeah, they're 32-2, dude. I mean, they're.
Oh my.
Yeah, wow. That's why we went over there. I think when we went there, the only loss they had was to a team in Florida that they had lost to in a tournament. There was only one team, and it was close. I mean, they ain't lost to anybody in state. But
Prattville Christian.
Yeah.
Baseball?
Yeah.
They're that good.
32-2.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. They got 2 guys signed with CAC.
Oh, okay, good.
And they got another kid, that big tall pitcher I interviewed. Well, they got 4 stud pitchers.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
okay.
I interviewed 5 of them, 5 kids. And again, that's the cool thing about this On the Road show that I know
you talk to more coaches than anybody.
Well, and I see all these kids, and I'll preview what we're about to do this coming up week. I mean, we're going down Monday and spending the night, and we're covering 4 high schools on Monday and Tuesday. I mean, we're waking up at 4 o'clock and hitting the road so we can be at Orange Beach by 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we've got St. Paul's and Saraland and Gulf Shores.
Oh, that's great.
That we're covering.
Different sports too, aren't you?
All different sports. I've talked to St. Paul's football coach, Coach Barnett, last night, and talked to Janie's mom last night, who happens to be the coach.
Mm-hmm. I thought she was.
And so, yeah, we're going to be profiling Janie and Tank at St. Paul's, softball at the other schools. So, I mean, got some other features that we're going to do while we're down there. So we got a lot going on, man. Yeah, Justin. Yeah. Am I retired? Yeah. Good. I absolutely do not know how to follow instructions real well. That's all I can tell you.
Gulf Shores lost in baseball last night. They
yeah.
Who did they lose to? Did somebody close to us?
Yep. We got about 30 seconds.
It wasn't Tallahassee.
I had it pulled up.
I can't remember. Because it was one I wanted to mention. Right. Tells you my memory.
I'll find it. They lost to Calera.
Yeah.
But they're not out of it. They got another game to play.
So it was just a single game that they lost to. Okay.
Yeah, they lost 5-4. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Some comments. Tony said, shout out to Stanhope's soccer programs for winning their area and hosting first round playoff games at 17 Springs. Heard the atmosphere was great. Well, that facility over there, again, all right, here we go. In that area of the state, in Millbrook, look, no shot at anybody, but facilities were less than acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And you know what they did down there is they invested and built one of the best sports complexes in the entire state now in 17 Springs. And you can say what you want. You didn't do that just because you wanted to just have a sports complex. That city and those communities made a decision that they wanted to find something that would be an economic booster to bring in tournaments and things, but wanted to provide facilities for the high school to have the best that they could possibly get. So it's no different than what we're doing here in Alexander City. We didn't have to build a brand new sports complex because we've been blessed for a long time with one of the best, and we've been able to maintain and keep that up. And then when our complex was built, and again, this is no cut against the ones that are being built now, most of the stuff that we built was built with concrete and steel. And it's almost impossible. The cost would be so great to do what we did. Now, you wouldn't be able to manage it. So they've changed things, and a lot of things are aluminum and different, but it's still great facilities and great, opportunities. But what we did is we built a brand new high school, or in the process. I think I got the memo yesterday that we're 78% complete now on the high school. So again, the goal is to be in that school by January of next year. But we were able to build a facility that we have never had in this city, and that's a competitive track with bleachers and the whole deal. So now that's going to be an economic booster for our city when these when all of these meets come in, and we're able to host things and maybe even host regionals and things like that. Now, this is just being in the current times, man. You're either moving forward or you're not. I mean, it's just the reality of it.
Well, let me brag on several things that's going on in our neck of the woods that are very much needed, Brett. I do a lot of travel basketball. My son loves it and I love it. So it's a perfect mix there. Well, most of the tournaments that we've done, taking a team out of the Lake Martin area, has been the last 3 years going either to North Alabama, to Coleman, and the Guntersville area, which they have a really great league up there that they work together on, and there's some wonderful facilities up there that you're able to go play in. And then the other spot that we've been nonstop is Hoover. Hoover's got so many gyms inside of one facility, and they've got a number of other gyms that they can play in. Well,
haven't you been to Sand Mountain too?
Well, we haven't on the travel circuit been to Sand Mountain, but Sand Mountain's really involved in everything else. They outside of 17 Springs, I think they've got the best facility in the state of Alabama. We've been up there a few times in some different sports, but just not YBOA. But my point is, Brett, where's the best high school basketball in the state?
It's in North Alabama.
Anybody that wants to argue that just doesn't pay any attention. They're stuck in their little nook and they don't watch anything else. It's eye-opening how much better the northern half of the state is in basketball than our area. Very much so. Well, I think part of the reason is facilities and opportunities for kids to be involved in that sport at the level that you've got to be to compete at the top level. There's a reason. I mean, I got to come up with some reason why the northern half of the state wins 90% of the state championships, and the southern half very seldom gets through. But here's one thing that's happened here recently. Let's just start with track and field in Alex City soon. We've got a sectional grade track facility being built in Alex City. There's one in Chelsea also that's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
The facility. So there are a few locations within an hour of us that you're going to be, if that's a sport that you care about, you're going to have top-notch facilities that you can actually go out and compete and learn and get to a state level. There's here in the city of Auburn, they built 2 brand new indoor basketball facilities within the last year, Brett. So as of previous years where we play 5 or 6 travel tournaments a year and 4 or 5 of them are in Hoover, so far 75% of the ones that we've played in this year have been in Auburn. That's never been an option because they didn't have the facilities to house it. And my guess is there's also been one over in Montgomery with the Crossplex, but I'll bet you anything that the city of Millbrook's about to get into the flow with that with 17 Springs, and you'll see a lot of tournaments going on there. So it's a need. It's not only a need for tourism and money to come to those communities, but it's also a need for our kids if you plan on them competing with other parts of the state that just got way nicer facilities and more opportunities than we're providing down here.
Look, I mean, again, not to pound a, or beat a dead horse, but it's just it's as obvious as the nose on your face. There's a direct correlation between success and investment, right? And that's no different than what you do in your personal life. You want your house to stay in good shape. You invest money back into it. You don't just buy a house and go, oh, well, that's it. I'm going to live here for 40 years and I ain't going to hit a lick of the stick and thing falls in. Time wears on, man. And, you can decide that you're going to do maintenance and renovate and change some things up, or you can let the thing fall in. It's whatever you want to do. It's yours. The same with communities and facilities and schools. You can keep just rolling, and you're going to have naysayers out there that go, hey, man, I don't see nothing wrong with our stuff. Why are they wasting money into all that? Well, I mean, that's your viewpoint, but the reality of the world around you is that the ones that are elevating their level of
Their
play
brand.
and they're absolutely not only athletics, but academically, they're reinvesting in their school. And that might not just necessarily be brick and mortar. It could be a lot of other different things, but they're doing the things that they need to do to put themselves at the top. So there's your little personal versus, whatever you want to call it, example of public versus private. That's how it goes down. And that's what communities that we're looking at across the state. You can look at Moody, Alabama. You and I know we got to get to break, Russ, but Moody, Alabama, back 15, 20 years ago, Randy, was what did we used to say? I don't mind saying it. And again, I think the people in Moody would say, hey, you're right on. They played for state championship, didn't they? Didn't we call that game, obviously, this year? Would 15 years ago, if I said Moody's going to be in the state championship in 15 years, you'd looked at me and you'd said, in what? And like in football, like, because they were the stomping boy for everybody. It was almost like Thompson. Like, I know it's so far removed now for the days of when Thompson used to get their brains beat out, because they've been beating everybody else's brains out for so long now. Nobody really that's 15 years older or older even remembers that now, or younger remembers that. But that's the truth, man. These programs decided that they were tired of being that. So they invested. Thompson invested brand new school, brand new facilities. Moody doing the same thing. It just naturally elevates what you do, and it's a culture that you instill. So we've said this for a million times, and for a million and one now, there's a direct correlation between all this stuff, and the communities that are showing that they're moving forward are the ones that are being stagnant. So, all right, we'll go. We got to get to break. Stay tuned. A lot more to come right after this.
Run down those scores quick when we come back, Brett.
I will. We got plenty of time.
Auburn split in 7A. Give me the others in 7A. Enterprise won. Enterprise only lost one baseball game this year, Brett.
I know it, man.
Hewitt Trustful won again.
They did.
Yeah.
Well, again, these teams that I've been to.
Phoenix City won. Phoenix City
won
both of theirs.
Let's see. Yeah, Hewitt Trustful won 4-0, and then they'll play game 2 at 7 tonight.
Okay.
No.
I thought I read they won the doubleheader and they moved on.
They had to have this must be old right here.
Yeah, you need to. There's one that came late last night that's updated.
That's the last one I've got. No, here it is. There's one right above it. Yep, I got them all now.
I need to go and post all of those when we get off.
Yep, I've got them all. Yeah, they won. They won 2-0 and 1-0.
Hewitt did.
No, they won. I'm sorry, they won 4-0 and 5-1. That's what they won by.
Pitching, man.
Well, I'm telling you right now, man, it is hard to read. It can break that thing down a little bit better. That's a bunch of numbers and stuff jumbled together. Good Lord. Go cross-eyed trying to read that. In about 40 seconds. Yeah, it'll be good to get down there this week and get those schools. And then we've got a AlDOT rep that's going to meet us down there on Tuesday and talk about all the different stuff going on in that area, because there's a lot going on in that area with AlDOT.
Industry too.
Oh yeah.
Which is the reason.
Yep, here we go.
That AlDOT's down there.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Very short segment here because we got to get caught up. It's only a few minutes. So we'll dive into some scores, and won't go through all of these. I'll just say, kind of who's moving on. And bear with me a little bit. I mean, this thing's like reading hieroglyphics, the way all this thing is typed up and the way the scores are. It looks like Auburn over Alma Bryant.
They split last night.
Yeah,
they're going to play today.
They've got game 3 coming up. But again, reading this is like trying to decipher something on the side of an Egyptian pyramid. I need some symbols and stuff. But Auburn and Alma Bryant split. All right, then you got Enterprise that won the series, and like you said, only one loss on the season. So again, very, very convincing win, 12-1, and then had to win a squeaker 1-0. But like you said, the commonality in a lot of this is pitching.
Yeah, these teams, we talked about Chelsea a little bit earlier, and congratulations to our good friend and Michael Stallings picking up his 300th victory as the head coach there at Chelsea. But they win 2 ball games and only give up 1 run in 2 ball games last night. Look, it's an easy mathematical equation when you throw pitchers up there that don't give up any runs. Vestavia Hills went on their 9-year stretch of winning state titles, and they won them a lot of different ways. But when we were coming through school, one of the key reasons that they won a lot of those was Josh Hancock, Brett. When you went and played Vestavia and Hancock was pitching, you weren't going to score. And if they were able to get 3 or 4 up there, it was going to be a problem beating them. And when you've got dominant pitching, you can really win when it gets to series ball like this. And some of these teams, you'll talk about Hewitt-Trussville here coming up. Did they give up a run last night?
Hewitt-Trussville won 4-0 and 5-1. So yeah, they gave up 1 run, but they're 33-2. And, arguably it's like, went up and talked to their coach and some of their players. They play in perhaps one of the toughest regions in the whole state. And somebody gets left out of that region that was a really good baseball team. And, I remember that year. I always go back and remember the year that Smith Station was number 1 in the state and didn't make the playoffs. Number 1 team in the state and didn't make the playoffs because they slipped up in region play. And they had a dominant season, but it's just wild in the way, some teams, there's one team that's dominant and the other ones are mediocre. And then you got some regions, all of the teams could go deep in the playoffs, but somebody gets left out because of who they're in the region with. Phoenix City won their series. last night over Baker. Like you just said, Hewitt-Trussville won over Sparkman, and Thompson and Bob Jones will play game 3 today. They split. So that's 2 really good baseball programs there that will have a deciding game 3 here today at 1 o'clock. All right, we're going to go ahead and take another break to catch up. And when we come back, we'll run down some more scores. Stay tuned. A lot more to come right after this.
So that's Bob Jones' team that won 7A last year.
That's right.
Still really good. Their catcher's committed to Alabama. There's the SEC commits all over. That's 6 and 7A.
Well, Hewitt-Trussville's got a bunch of them. Their shortstop's going to Tennessee.
Well, and their shortstop's really a junior.
I know it, but he's already –
he's not going anywhere.
He's going to the major
league.
Straight
to the pros.
Yep.
I think he's a top 25 prospect in the country.
Right.
I mean, I'm top 25 major league
prospect. Right.
Unless I missed something there.
You're right.
Pretty sporty, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
A word my good friend Mark Worthy uses a lot. Pretty sporty when you're going to skip a year. It's kind of like Ryan Williams. When you're going to skip a year, Cam Coleman.
Yeah, right.
When you're 16, 17 years old playing against grown men. And
well, when you got it, you got it.
You got it, you got it. You're right.
Ain't no other way to spin it.
So Chelsea wins in 6A. Calera. I thought I read that Calera beat Gulf Shores twice.
I just pulled it up. Calera did win. Calera won.
So that's out of our area.
Yep.
So, which Gulf Shores was what, 20 and 14 or 20 and 15? They didn't have.
They're 20-14 and 1.
Yeah, not as good.
Calera was 20 and 15.
So about equal teams there.
Yep.
Who else in 6A?
Stanhope at Helena. That game, I guess that is.
I think they got delayed.
It's delayed. So
they start today.
Yeah, they start at 2 and 4:30.
Yeah. So Tallahassee goes on.
Tallahassee, Reeltown.
Elmore County split. Elmore County still got a chance.
Yeah, they got beat 1-0, and then they came back and won
10-5, didn't
10-5.
Lee Scott and Glenwood moved
on. Actually, it was the other way around.
Was it?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
They won 1-0 and 10-5. Man, I'm telling you, man, it's dang confusing reading this thing.
Somebody else locally. Oh, Reeltown. Man, Reeltown. Look at the scores that they go.
I know it.
They're throwing pitchers up there.
They've always had pitchers down there, man. It's crazy. It is wild.
I've never known them to be to the baseball level they are now.
They've had several. I know we had one that came to CAC a few years ago that was.
Yeah. But they are statewide competitive now.
Oh, I know it. Right. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Final segment here in hour number 1. Just finishing up the scores for baseball in round 2 here in the state of Alabama. Just hitting some specific series up and down. Finishing up in 6A, like we talked about, Chelsea knocked off Saraland. And again, our good friend Michael Stallings, congratulations to him on his 300th win. It just means he's been coaching a long time, right, Michael? We're not as young as we all used to be. Again, that's another team we had a chance to go catch up with our On the Road show. We really enjoy doing that show. It is a lot of work. We try to make it fun for everybody. I want to encourage everybody to go out there and share that when you see it on our AHSA Radio Network Facebook page. That show goes on statewide TV as well. But we try to make it fun, Randy. We go cover the school, And that's the reason we go, but we try to go highlight the community we're in. You know, what's a cool thing to go do if you're in that area of the state? Where's a great place to go eat that's not a chain restaurant? I mean, I think we provide some really cool content and some good feedback. It's almost like a tourism show, you know, that you see on the Travel Channel or something like that, and it ties our high school programs into the communities they live in. I mean, we've been to Spring Garden, we've been to, you know, we've been all over the place now. We're heading to Gulf Shores, and Orange Beach is coming up week where we've really, it's kind of crazy. We haven't been yet with our on the road shows. So we've got so many places that we haven't even covered yet that we're excited to go and you know, give some feedback on.
Well, you'll enjoy this. So I'm a history buff. So go figure, my son's a history buff. And so they just toured Horseshoe Bend.
I was just there.
Past. Yep. And that was the tourism destination when y'all did the Horseshoe Bend show, which will air next week.
Right.
So Kendall's class went to Horseshoe Bend within the last week. And so he's been telling me all these Andrew Jackson stories and how the Indians didn't do a good job of surrounding the backside of that bend, how Andrew Jackson's crew came in the backside.
General Coffee came in from the backside.
Yep.
I mean, but I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm glad you bring that up, and I want to say something. I'm glad that our schools are still doing that and taking these kids. Man, they wouldn't know anything about that. And, you know, history only goes on if you keep telling the story. And it becomes forgotten. And look, I gave Faith, and I found out Maddie was a history buff, you know, and you're thinking, man, none of these kids nowadays care anything about this. And she's like, no, I really was going into history. And, you know, and to go up there and stand on that lookout and look down in that field and go, that's where this battle took place. And this is the first spot that Andrew Jackson's men came to when they evaluated the barricade. I mean, almost like take you back in time. Like we're standing in the exact same spot. See, I love that kind of stuff. To some people, they're like, oh, whatever, man. That happened a bazillion years ago. Who cares? But I mean, it all had a chain reaction of why we are where we are today in this world. And if you don't continue to pass that along, and kids like Kendall and kids even younger than him coming down the line, and we don't educate our kids, it gets forgotten. They don't have an appreciation for what is that military park up there on Highway 49, you know, between New Site and Davil, Alabama. What is that? You know, well, go read a history book. You know, it's so important that it's in the Smithsonian. And you know, when I went to Washington, D.C., and there's literally beside Andrew Jackson's uniform in the Smithsonian is a thing about the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. So,
well, and that's the reason we're doing the show, and that's the reason we want to add a little flavor to the show, not just a single interview with a coach and a player, but you know, local eating establishments that's important to the community, and then a little tourism, John, out there too. So tune into that next week. I was excited to hear that y'all went there. I remember going there multiple times when you and I were in school, and enjoyed, you know, buying, whether it be some kind of
trinket or something,
wooden built trinket that I'd bring back home and play with. But I remember it real well. And but keep going down those stories.
I know this is gonna tell how much and why this is sitting here. But there's a cannon from Horseshoe Bend. I didn't buy it this week. Okay, this thing is old as crap, and all I can tell you. But that was purchased on one of our field trips back in the day. You know, that I probably begged my mom to buy, but I've still got the dang thing. Just like my wife would come up here and say, "Yeah, you still got every single thing that you've ever had." So yeah, there's right on cue. I get to pull out one of those trinkets that we bought when we were there. But Glenn brings up a good point. Yeah, you tell history for the good and the bad. You know, so the good stuff that you want to, you know, continue on talking about and praise, and the mistakes and the bad stuff that you don't want to repeat as a society and as a culture. So you can't run from history. Tell the stories. You know, some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. Yeah, that was a massacre that happened on that battlefield. And there were a lot of things that went on back then that shaped, again, the way we are today. So, but you don't just crumble all that up and throw it away. You tell the story.
Great point. A couple of other local schools. Let me hit down those scores before you go to break, Brett.
Yep.
We mentioned Tallahassee winning and moving on to the third round. Reeltown, right next door to Tallahassee, winning, moving on to the third round. Great pitching there for Reeltown, Brett. They've not only got one of the top sophomore prospects in the country in baseball in Jamarcus Smith, but they've got some other really good players that we've given some athletes of the week to. Here by Prime Fitness. I want to thank them for being our Lake Martin area athlete of the week sponsor on the HSA. We mentioned Glenwood and Lee Scott, a couple of other teams of note here in the local region that are really playing well. We've had a great run, Brett. If you think about it, I just mentioned in basketball, we may look around our local area and wonder how many teams are making it as far as they are now, and not near as many as we would like. In baseball, it's a really strong run right now.
It's massive. Again, you look down this list that we've run down, and East Central Alabama is got a lot of teams in it and still alive and competing and have had good seasons. So we love that. Again, we don't have a dog in the fight on anything when it comes to HSA. We just want to see good. We want to see good competition. Especially in the basketball and the football side, which we, contract to call those games and those championship games and all that. But yeah, so the second round will wrap up today for most teams, and it looks like the weather is going to be really, really good today, so they'll get that in. And again, just a few more weeks, and then I know softball is getting cranked up this coming up week, so they'll be getting after it. And again, just went to Horseshoe Bend this past week, and we'll be sharing that. I know they get started on Monday with their postseason. Again, going down to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, talking about two softball programs that have had tremendous seasons. We'll catch up with both of them as well. Real quick before we go to our top of the hour break, and we'll close out the high school side. Going to get to catch up with Janie Ford, one of the best track athletes that's ever come through the state over at St. Paul's. We're going to get to sit down and talk to her. And Faith is going to catch up with Tank Jones. Just going to give everybody a little preview. We're setting up an interview with all 10 top prospects here in the state of Alabama, according to 24/7. We're not truly partnered with 24/7, but those guys are our good friends. And Jason's on our program a lot, Randy, and Christian as well. And I know all the services do a great job, but we've kind of hooked up with 24/7 on some different things. And so we use their listing on their the years and the classifications. In this year's class, we're going down their top 10, and Faith's already interviewed Sedarian Morgan. So Tank Jones is the number 2 player in the state. So while we're there, she's going to be catching up with Tank Jones and doing a feature on him. So we're going to try to get to all 10 top prospects here in the state before the end of the summer. So we're looking forward to that. So keep that in mind and go to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that already, and subscribe and check that out. So, all right, going to close out here the first hour, and continue to get your comments in. If you got questions or anything, we're going to dive into a lot in hour number 2. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
I'll be right back, Brett.
Yep.
More coffee, Brett.
All right, everybody, dive into college and pro here in the second hour. If anybody's got a comment on the draft, I know we've got a lot of NFL buffs out there that love the draft. I mean, I'm blown away at the amount of people that show up to watch that draft in person. Like, I'll flip it on and watch, 30 minutes at a time, especially in the first couple of rounds. But man, I guess an experience that you want to check off. But man, there was so daggone many people there in round one, and you're so far away from the stage. I don't know what you're seeing. But I know everybody's got things that they like that are different than others. So, but that was a boatload of freaking people standing out there watching the commissioner just walk up on stage and announce a draft pick. It's just wild. I think I saw a number where it was like 130,000 people that were standing outside watching that. I that's just not something I'd do. I love the draft, but I'm not going to go watch that in person and stand outside 130. What are you watching? The commissioner walk up to a podium and say, with the third pick in the NFL 25 draft, the so-and-so select so-and-so, and they come out there and hold up a jersey and then they walk off. I mean, what is going on, dude? I mean, like, I love sports, man, but I'm not traveling if I'm twice the population of Green Bay. That's right, Russ. I mean, I don't know, man. Again, to each his own. I do some stuff that people probably go, what the hell is he doing that for? I mean, does he wake up to go do that? Like, but that's what I said about everybody standing around watching the draft in person. I'm like, I know there's got music and stuff going on, but some of those people were so far back, binoculars wouldn't help them see the stage. So I guess it's just saying, hey, I was there.
I mean, I wouldn't go.
No way I'm going to that. No, I'm not.
I don't think I have to speak up.
You ain't going many places.
Not there.
All right, here we go. About 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We can't thank them enough. JR's, we have expanded what we are doing with them. We're there every Wednesday with our Lake Martin Sports Roundup show. I've been doing that show forever. They've been longtime partners with us here on the Saturday Sports Countdown and Sports Blitz Live. But they've now joined in with our Auburn Blitz programming, and they're one of the places that we're on location. And we're going to be rotating between them. Randy, I'll just use this as a little bit of a platform to talk about how we're growing our podcast over on the Auburn Blitz side and the things we're doing there. We will be on the road every week, probably, and 90% of the time it'll be a Friday unless the business asks us to be there at another time for a special event or something. But we were at Lake Martin Grocery on Highway 49, and we're going to be in that whole area. Again, that's going to be one spot we rotate, but not just at the grocery store. We'll be at Stillwater's Golf Course, some other businesses in that area that we're rotating around with. We're going to be at Byron's and Baumhauer's in Auburn in a rotation basis there. We're going to be at Lake Martin Pizza, the one on 49 and the one on 63. Brett and Stacy, they just recently purchased the one in Dayville. So they're renovating that one right now and remodeling it to kind of to be similar to the one in Alex City. So you got a lot of outdoor area seating and stuff. I went by there yesterday while I was in the area and checked that out. That's coming along really well. And of course, JR. So we're going to be rotating between all these places throughout the summer because this is lake season, man. I'm going out on the lake today. It's beautiful weather. And again, Memorial Day is really like the unofficial start of lake season around here, but Auburn and the Lake Martin area is where Auburn Blitz will be for the foreseeable future on Fridays all the way through football season.
Well, can't thank all of you enough for finding us. If you don't check out YouTube on the subscriber count, it's gone through the roof, probably close to 5,000 subscribers at this point, Brett. It's a couple hundred a day. When I'm looking over there. And so Brett and I say this, we would like to say that we know exactly why that's happening, but we don't. We just know that we're throwing a lot of content out there that's either getting shared or there's people finding it. And, you never know when your time comes, Brett. But it feels like it's finally come on some of these because, look, outlets that you and I've worked under over the last 20 plus years have been different than what they are now.
Right.
We have done a lot of TV and radio, and still proud to continue to do TV and radio. And we don't plan to change what's going on there, but shows the way that we're doing this one this morning. And the ways that we're able to do podcasts and on locations were not available to us even 5 years ago, Brett. So really makes things that we've all talked about over the years more accessible to us now. And so if you've got suggestions, please let us know. I say this on the HSA side because I spend a lot of my time during the day posting for that. I need storylines. We get some, but I don't get anywhere near as much as I would like.
And there's a lot of stuff out there that just doesn't get told.
Well,
and we don't know about it. We don't know
our
about
goal is it has been our goal for years now to grow one of the strongest high school sports outlets that there is in the country. And I feel like we've done that. And Brett's efforts out there on the road, and my efforts on social media just to post players of the week and to spotlight kids and stories in the state are needed. But Brett and I don't know all the stories. I know enough to be scary, but like Brett said, there's a bunch that aren't even reported on it anymore with the lack of newspaper coverage and other coverage that we once had in the state. Just look, that business model's not around as much as it once was. So we need you to send us information. That's what I'm prodding along there, Brett. I need as much of it as I can get.
When we reach out to these schools and we tell them we're coming, man, sometimes I'm like, I wonder how they're going to receive, are they going to be excited that we're coming? And every single time I reach out to a coach or student athlete, man, they're like, are you serious? You're coming here? You're coming to do your show here? And that, it's humbling to us, and we're just trying to give them exposure, but they're excited to see us coming, and they see the show that we push out, and they see all the work that you do on social media, and people, they appreciate it. Again, we're thinking, hey, I'm going up here to cover Ace Austin, and I wonder if she's going to have time for us to come do this. And then on the flip side, Ricky and her are like, man, this is awesome. I'm glad y'all are coming. And I mean, it's reciprocal. It just means that a lot of these areas of the state and these stories, man, they're starved to get their word, their message out there. We're just glad to be able to be the vehicle to deliver.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I was going to forget to tell you this. We talk about 9,000 other things, and I don't even remember to tell you something as important as what I'm about to tell you. I got a personal message from Dwayne Brown yesterday.
I saw that.
Thanking us for all of the coverage that we've given him over the years.
I told my wife that when I saw it come across.
Look, he's as good as we've covered here in this state. Correct. And I mean,
that guy's awesome, dude.
He can play, and he's 6'9". He's got a different skill set that I'm
taking a step stool from now on when I have to interview somebody like that. By the way, I look like the dang Statue of Liberty holding up a torch, trying to put the mic in his face.
But it's ones like that we'll continue to cheer for. I know he's going to Tennessee, but I'm a fan of his now. I've always been, but I really am.
He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that.
Simple little message just to say that he appreciates all the coverage we've given him over the years. And so that goes a long way out there. So,
Randy, let me just tell you this. It makes you feel like, and you do 99.9% of the posting for us on our social media account, and you've grown that account, and 1,000 kudos to you and what you do and the grind that you put in. But not that you don't do it for an accolade. You do it because you're telling the stories, and it's what we do with our network. But man, isn't it great to feel the reciprocation from a student athlete like that? Because a lot of times we go, well, this generation, they don't give a rip about. And then you got one of the most popular, top rated players in the state, Dwayne Brown, that takes just 2 seconds to stop and say, you know what, I need to send a message to them because they probably helped me get to where I am a little bit. Now, my skills done it, but they've given me a lot of exposure over the years, and I just want to show a little bit of gratitude back to them. Man, it just warms your heart. I'll be honest with you, not to get all sentimental and stuff, but that people do actually give a rip.
Well, and it's the reason I'm prodding you out there for more storylines. because we do care, but a lot of times we don't hear. And some schools are very, very good at getting you information, and other schools, they don't get you anything. You have to pull it out of them. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it's just the truth. And look, and I think that's local newspapers that are passing along some of those storylines too. In some areas, they do a good job of getting it, and a lot of other ones they don't. So I'd rather it just come direct. Some of the best posts that we make are here's something I want everybody to hear. I get a lot of coaches, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, aunts, and uncles that send me information on kids. Do you know how many storylines I've been sent on a kid that wasn't worthy of me posting?
Zero.
And I've been doing this. Zero. Like, people have common sense. They really do. I think we've got to give human beings credit for having common sense. When I get information, it's like, would you mind spotlighting this kid? And I'll read down the accolades. I'm like, how in the world do I not know that?
Have they not already been getting exposure to this point? I mean, crazy.
It is crazy. So we're an open book. We want you to find us, and we want you to communicate with us. And if I got 100 of them a week, it wouldn't make me any more happy.
I'm with you, man. A lot of great things. And again, we'll be hitting the road bright. We won't even be bright when I get on the road Monday morning. It'll be dark when we get on the road Monday morning, but we love what we do. And look, let me kudos to Nicholas and Maddie. I want to say that real quick to them. We've had two unbelievable interns. Nicholas was on the road yesterday, headed to South Carolina for an interview as he's about to graduate from Auburn. And he and I were chatting back and forth, and he has done a tremendous job on our Auburn Blitz Instagram page with our reels and pushing that out. And Maddie she gets so embarrassed when I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Again, she's an anomaly in the broadcast world. She's quiet and unassuming, got a great personality. If you looked at her right off the hoof and said she's going to go into broadcasting, you no, she's not. Then you put a mic in front of her and get her in front of the camera, and she's Erin Andrews. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. So, yeah, and Rick Smith for sending them to us, and then that's how we got Faith. And I know we've told that story. Rick Smith introduced her to me and you, and she did some internship with us in the fall, and it kind of built from there. So it's all about networking and in relationships, and we're going to be getting more interns through Auburn University when Maddie and Nicholas move on. So, again, if you're interested in this field, we got a lot, and just got contacted this past week about job shadowing and figuring out when we can, meet up with some people for this summer to bring some high school kids in to do some job shadowing. We welcome all that. We got plenty of stuff to do, got plenty of stuff to show people and train people on. So, just wanted to kind of give a plug on that. All right, we're way past break. We come back, we'll keep going. A lot to talk about. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
Hit Shedeur when we come back.
I'm coming back.
And we can talk about it right now. What's your feel on it? You think he mishandled the interviews that bad? You think that's the reason?
I think I read there were a couple posts where, I mean, there were several NFL coaches said, man, that guy right there's got a lot to learn. And like every draft analyst is like, it's the only thing it could be because of his skill set and the stats and what he's been able to do. I mean, he's a top 2 quarterback in this year's draft that has fallen all the way out of the first 3 rounds, man. He is in round 4. And this isn't because this isn't Tom Brady where you get drafted. What was Tom Brady drafted in the 5th or 6th round?
Later, I think 6th or 7th.
The 6th, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because Tom Brady wasn't any spectacular athlete. And you looked at him at Michigan, you like, and that's why people, and he didn't do very good in the combines and stuff. And then he was slow and he wasn't very athletic looking. And so NFL teams like, yeah, we might just sign him to a free agent deal. But that's about all we're going to do because And then, of course, he's the best that's ever played. That's not the case here. Shedeur Sanders is what is phenomenally athletic and has got unbelievable numbers and would be what the NFL is looking for. And they are just continuing to pass him down the line, man. He'll become a point where it's the value is so outweighs the negative that somebody will say, all right, we'll take him at this price, and he'll back up our guy like a Justin Herbert or somebody, and he'll just sit over there and learn. And if he becomes a problem, we'll just get rid of him. It won't cost us that much money. But that's how much money he's losing.
Maybe it's been that he's had a mic in front of him and a camera in front of him forever. I've never heard really any major turmoil with him. I mean, like you hear of a lot of these kids stay in trouble. Or
I know.
You know, and have you heard that from him? I haven't.
I haven't heard anything really.
It's got to be more of a personality conflict on interview. That's the reason I asked. The interviews had to have been so eye-openingly bad.
Right. It's the only thing that could be.
Because otherwise you don't have a lot of off the field issues, do you?
I haven't heard of any.
He's bounced all over the place with his dad, and he's been successful wherever he's been. He's been able to handle different fan bases and different styles of game.
Like Justin said, Mel Kiper is about to have a conniption fit. I mean, look,
it's odd.
Here's the thing about Mel Kiper. Here's the thing about Mel Kiper and stuff. And I know he's a draft expert and whatever. All right, we're coming back. So give us about, and I'll keep this going. We got about 10 seconds. Mel Kiper don't run an NFL franchise, and he ain't in there making decisions. So he can sit back there behind the desk and have a conniption all he wants. Welcome back to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. About 30 minutes left in the show today, so get your comments in. We're shifting gears to Shedeur Sanders and the NFL draft. There's a couple storylines I want to get into, too, outside of Shedeur Sanders. With this draft. But just said Mel Kiper is having a conniption fit over the fact that he's dropped all the way out and now out of the first 3 rounds. I don't know why, but this happens to be a unanimous decision by all franchises for this to be going on. And so when you look at the tape and you look at what he's been able to do on the field for 2 different college programs, and take teams that were terrible and be able to not be behind the best offensive line and be able to perform. I think I heard a stat yesterday, if this is correct, he completed 82% of his passes when he was not under duress or pressure, like one of the highest, maybe the highest completion percentage rate in college football last year in that stat category. Now, again, he didn't have the best offensive line, had to run for his life, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he's got a good skill set. And, Travis Hunter is Travis Hunter. I mean, we know how great of a player he is and, how highly he went in the draft. And that wasn't a shock. But definitely thought Shedeur Sanders would be one of the top 3 quarterbacks off the board because of what he brings to the table. And now he's in the 4th round. And as I pulled up the rounds, who at this point it becomes a value thing. It becomes now because you're losing so much money as you fall down in the draft that at some point in time, even though a franchise didn't want you in one of those first 3 rounds, they go, your value is a lot greater than the negative now. So I'm going to take you and I'm going to put you behind a guy like a Justin Herbert or Josh Allen or somebody that's already got a well-developed and franchise quarterback, and we'll see what happens. And if you don't work out, then we cut you loose and we ain't lost much. But this is him every pick losing more and more money as he goes down the line.
Well, there were a couple of programs that I thought tell the story maybe more than others. One, Pittsburgh.
100%.
Pittsburgh, since Big Ben moved on, it's not they've been bad. They've been a really, probably Mike Tomlin's as good a consistency coach as we've seen in pro football in the last 20 years. You'd agree with that. They win every year. It's not that they're a championship caliber team every year, but they're in the mix every year. But since Big Ben, they've needed a franchise quarterback to lean on. I'm not saying that Shedeur, anybody believes he is a franchise quarterback, but they passed him up a couple of times, Brett. And then, I thought if anybody, Dallas would have taken a run on him with the relationship, or what you feel is the relationship with Jerry Jones and that program with his father. And am I missing something? Does the NFL have that much angst against Deion Sanders?
No. I saw Jerry Jones comments about Deion and Shedeur and praising him. I saw Sean Payton, who's had a relationship with Shedeur all the way back when he was in high school. And those particular franchises aren't in a position to take a quarterback, and they may have greater needs than a quarterback that they go, I like the kid, I'd draft him, but we don't need a quarterback. I'm not going to waste a top 3 or 4 pick on a position we don't need. I'm not going to be Atlanta like last year and go get Kirk Cousins for umpteen $1 million and then go sign Michael Penix in the first round. I mean, I'm like, that's the dumbest. Like, what are you doing? Like, that is just complete and total stupidity, because now, again, it's all about roster management in the NFL, and it's getting that way in college. You don't go and spend all your money and put 3 5-star quarterbacks in your quarterback room and don't have any defensive linemen. The highest number of, like, I think the position group defensive line had the highest numbers it's had in years. I think top 3 rounds, there were 11 or 12 big-time defensive linemen. Like, the trenches are important, and there's a lot of teams that need those O-linemen and defensive linemen, and they've already got quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers locked down. And so it has to be a specific niche. But the like you said, the anomaly is the teams that don't have a quarterback, like Pittsburgh and some of those that went twice or 3 times and had a chance to get him and passed him over. And Randy, I'll be honest with you. Who are you picking? You picking Shedeur Sanders or Jalen Milroe, man?
Oh, man, that's no question.
Are you picking Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders? Are you picking Tyler Show from Louisville, who I sent that meme over? I don't know what that pass was, by the way. Like, he literally threw that in the combine. That's not a joke. That wasn't somebody that did that on a computer. I don't even know what that was. He got drafted over Shedeur Sanders. Jackson Dart, I mean, would be 50-50.
The reason I can get Jackson Dart's his mobility.
50-50, I said.
Yeah, I get 50-50. That. I mean, he's a more mobile athlete than Shedeur. But I think Shedeur, like
Cam Ward was the no-brainer. Cam Ward was the no-brainer.
Because he brings both of those to the mix too.
Right.
But to me, I mean, if you're looking for a pocket passing quarterback like Big Ben was over the years, to me, Shedeur's the big pocket passing arm that is more accurate than any of them.
Right.
I've always thought his accuracy and the way that he delivered the football was pro level, maybe even more than college level. And I guess I'm wrong.
Well, people need to understand this, and I know we got to get to our next break for TV. NFL is a massive business. If the skill set and the ability to give your team a chance to win is going to they'll take some bad apples. Let me just say that. Eventually, somebody's going to say, "Oh, I'm going to tell you something, man. He may have had a screwed up interview, but that kid could play, and we're gonna take him, and we're gonna try to make him our franchise court, whatever." For all of these franchises to keep pushing him down, it's historic. And I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either, because there are the Randy Mosses that dropped in the draft. There are the Lawrence Phillips that dropped in the draft. I can keep going back. We've all had them.
Well, we understand that.
And those are like a lot more clear issues, off the field issues, than what we're seeing here. I mean, I got to go back to, do you know how bad an interview you must have had to upset this many programs if your skill set is not being questioned?
We'll see if I can find that tweet that I sent to all you guys.
I saw the same one.
Yeah, I just want to read it for everybody. I know let's get to break. I'll try to dig that up. We'll come back. We'll keep talking about this. And some storylines with Auburn and Alabama when it comes to the draft. And
please do pull up all of those we've sent back and forth.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
If there's a question, if you're an Auburn fan, you wonder why Auburn's not had any success.
You don't have to go
tell the story.
Yeah, you don't have to go far. So, all right, up against the break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
I'll be right back.
Yep.
Go get this coffee.
I'm going to try to pull up this for everybody. And
I need to get my hair done so bad. Looks like I'm gonna have to go to Mom, what you want? Later. I need it later, I know that. Hey, baby. I flushed it. Look here. It's very careful. I'm gonna go with the trick.
all right, I found it. Yeah, I found it.
Oh, yeah, coffee. Oh, yeah.
I heard Rugrats in the background.
Well, she came in here and got a doll.
There you go.
I just saw her. I was thinking when I walked in, oh, man, I hope she didn't pull a box out right here.
Got your doll collection.
Yeah.
We got 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Couple segments left in the show today. All right, so on NFL Red Zone, and this was in an article, just a section out of an article. I'll just read it. It said one longtime NFL assistant. This is just one. We read multiple and different things on X all week and talking about Shedeur Sanders. Said one longtime NFL assistant coach said his time with Sanders was the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He is so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time, has a horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good, said one AFC executive. Said, didn't go great in our interview. He wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. He makes you feel small. Said even some of Sanders' fans expressed disappointment. He didn't take a bigger step forward as a senior. Then said there was an NFC GM that said, I liked him the year before. And then kind of went into some more of the same things that one NFL coach said. But I guess this is the consensus, man. I mean, this is not some jacked up meme website. This is off NFL.com. This is an article that came from the NFL Red Zone section. And I mean, you can say whatever you want to say. And it says, that they felt like Jackson Dart and Shedeur were really close on some things. But one guy said that he felt like he may have even been a little less athletic than Jackson, which you just said.
I don't think he's as good a running athlete, which is odd when you think Deion Sanders, he and Bo Jackson are the two best athletes that I've ever seen in my life, but doesn't mean that any of our kids are what we were. But what I thought that Shedeur brought to the game was, who cares if you can dart around as long as you move enough and deliver the football as well as I felt like he has over his career. But look, what the point you're making that I think is valid is these executives, if there's just one or two passing you up,
right.
Of course, in today's world, everything becomes black and white. Look, you can say that it doesn't, but you can turn on Twitter right now and there's a whole bunch of talking heads saying this is a racial issue. I mean, this is the craziest.
How is it a racial issue?
It's the most ridiculous take in the world.
Jalen Milroe and Cam Ward goes number one. I mean, that's just
Travis Hunter right there behind him. That's been tutelage by the exact same coach, and all of that is just it
doesn't hold water. It's really just a dumb argument, man.
So, but the point you're making is not. And if that were the case, there's blacks not choosing him too. I mean, there are black head coaches.
Mike Tomlin's the head coach of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So that take makes no sense. But look, I was a big fan of his. You know that. It's the reason you're bringing this up. I've been talking good about him for a long time, and I'm a huge fan of Deion's. Some people don't like how eccentric he is and how flamboyant he is, but I happen to be one that likes a coach that markets his program and puts that brand out there, and even made a major argument that he would be a perfect fit for Auburn. And a lot of Auburn fans don't like that, but I don't care. I mean, I liked it, and I liked it for a long time, and I still wouldn't have mind seeing it happen. The further we get down the line, you're about to go into something else.
Right.
Hey, I tell you what, we wouldn't be going down some of the stats that you're about to bring up. I don't believe if he would have got the job 2 shifts ago, but that's neither here nor there. But with Shedeur, there's really a reason when you drop out of the first 3 rounds, those execs are seeing something we don't know.
Yeah, there's a reason behind it, and it'll come out eventually. There'll be some more people that make comments about it when the draft's over, and he will get drafted somewhere. He'll get drafted today, probably, would be my guess. Don't know where that'll be. Don't know who it'll end up being at the end of the day. But, now he can use this as motivation to go out and say somebody got a steal in the draft. And, the ball's in his court now that he can work his way up and prove all these franchises wrong. And, somebody that's a competitor like him will probably use that as fuel to his fire. So, and I think Sean Payton said that. I think Jerry Jones said that he'll end up being successful wherever he goes. All right, so we got to take another break. We come back. We'll talk about some more stats. TJ Finley he transferred again. What's wrong with this guy, dude? Like, what is wrong?
No, don't bring him up. What's wrong with the system?
Well,
you're asking the wrong question.
But I mean, he literally just transferred to Tulane.
Yeah, I know. But
in the first portal window, and now he's out again.
But he's the perfect example of what's broken in this system.
Well,
he would be going to his 6th different school.
This is just dumb. And then, did I send that over to y'all, or did y'all send it to me? Yeah, I can't remember. We send so much junk. The transfer portal closing, it closed last night, or it closed at midnight today. 2018 and 19, when it started, 1,700 kids got in the portal. You know how many got in the portal in this cycle, 24-25? 4,842. If you think that's normal, you think that's okay, then you're probably part of the problem. I hate to be that way, but that's it. No, who likes that? Who wants to support this kind of system in college athletics? So John Gruden, I sent that over to y'all. I told y'all I showed y'all what he said about this NIL stuff. He said basically, he used a lot of expletives, but then the kids are basically running the teams. And then, of course, with Kentucky deciding to do what they're doing with their athletic program and creating our own LLC. And, I mean, we're just in a whole different day and age. Something's got to be done if we want to save some type of semblance of the college sport. Something's got to be done. I don't know what it is. Something's got to be done. All right, up against the break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. I mean, that's comical, man. 4,800 and something people got in the portal. Now 4,842 of them in the portal, and 4,800 of them was TJ Finney. They just kept tracking him every time he changed. I think he's been somewhere every week. It's amazing, man. Like, seriously, like, we don't need to talk about academics anymore. And nobody going to class changing. He don't even know where he is. Does he even know what school he's at? He has to probably wake up sometimes and go, now, where am I? Where did I go? Just the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Auburn golf winning the stroke play yesterday. Jackson Coyven winning the outright championship 2 years in a row. First time that's happened since the 70s. So they're in match play. And
what a golf program, man.
God.
And didn't I see that they broke the SEC record?
Day one, 6-16. Or 16 under day one.
No, I thought it was overall.
I'm just saying they broke that record on day one. It's the lowest round ever by SEC.
I think
you're talking about 34 under.
I think that was the lowest team score.
I'm sure it is.
Too.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, I talked to Coach Kleiner yesterday. We texted back and forth. He said, man, I got to get another Auburn Blitz hat. He said, I took it off in the dang Uber car and the guy drove off with it. He said, I need another lid. I said, I got you. He said, I need to do a trade. I need an Albee golf swinging hat. He said, I need to help you out on that.
Oh, they're playing
he's
great.
Such a nice guy, though, man.
Oh, he's easy to cheer for, isn't he?
He is. Well, I'll tell a story on him here in just a minute. He won't care. We were pulling up to do face interview with Brendan Valdez at the golf complex. We pull up, and he's spraying weeds. We'll round up in the front out there in the flower bed. I pull up, and I looked at Faith. I said, is that Coach Kleiner out there spraying in that flower bed? And so I rolled the window down. I said, boy, times are rough around here. Our dadgum national championship coaches out here in the middle of this flower bed spraying Roundup. He said, well, if I don't do it, he probably ain't gonna get done. I said, well, I'd give you my address. You come on down to the house. I said, if you want to finish up here, you come on down. He said, just did it at mine. He said, I'm tapped out. So it just shows you, man, like that some people don't care about status and all that. And it's about, I'm just going to do whatever I got to do to get it done. And nothing's beneath me. You know, I'm not above not do anything. So
these facilities are crazy, aren't they, Brett?
Oh, it's crazy. Here we go. 5 seconds. That's unreal. Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Just a little tidbit there before we or after we went to break, talking about Auburn golf with Coach Kleinert and SEC, the defending SEC champs and national champs. They won stroke play, got the number 1 seed. Jackson Coyven won the individual stroke play for the second year in a row. It's the only time that's been done since the 70s. And so they continue to do well. They'll head into match play with a chance to repeat as SEC champs. But just talking about the golf facility they have out there at the AU club, and it was our first opportunity to go out and see that. And if you haven't seen Face on the front row with Brendan Valdez last week, you need to go see that. Those interviews are good from the fact, Randy, that they dive into just not about what they do every day as an athlete in the sport. They talk more about how they got there. I mean, like when you watch the interview, you found out that Brendan Valdez started out as a gymnast. He didn't play golf. And then he shifted into that because he had family that were gymnasts and he was built like that. And, you find out a lot about these student athletes and where they came from and why they chose Auburn and all, and had a real good one this week with tennis, women's tennis. That'll be coming out next week. So go and find that on our YouTube page. But this Auburn men's golf team it starts at the top. Coach Kleiner, man, just a superb guy.
Well, he's a class act, and he's thought of by not only talking heads like you and I, but you and I get to meet a lot of people around the state, and just the way he handles people. He's not a greater than thou type of leader. He's accessible. You just told a story during the break about pulling up to the golf facility and he out there spraying Roundup and flower beds. But I want you to talk about this, Brett, because Alabama's building one too. These golf facilities at these colleges,
crazy.
It makes sense why they're able to go out there and get some of the top golfers in the country, because the resources are being thrown at a sport that, let's be honest, is massive where we live. It's just massive. This is huge tourism dollars. Whether you be in Auburn and Opelika area or the Lake Martin area where we live, Brett, I mean, there are some of the top golf courses in the entire country in our backyard, and people that are rabid about sport around here. So it's not a surprise the further you get down the line. But I tell you, as an Auburn fan, it sure is nice to have a program up to the standard that Coach Kleiner's got this one right now.
No doubt about it. I mean, he has again recruited some of the best in the country, and he's also gone out and found some guys that maybe weren't the highest rated guys and gotten in here, and they've worked. And it goes all the way back to the first hour talking about facilities.
Mm-hmm.
When these kids come around and they go out, and the Jackson Coivins of the world that are from North Carolina, and they're trying to make a decision where they want to come play golf, they can go anywhere. They chose Auburn. Maybe a lot of it had to do with Coach Kleiner. I'd want to play for that guy. And that's what Brendan talked about with Faith in the interview, is that, why wouldn't you want to play for him? Well, just the way he handles, you one-on-one and helps coach you, and his demeanor, and just the times that you and I've been around him, and just a very likable person. And you add the facilities and everything else that goes in with Auburn, that's why some of these kids are deciding to come here. But so it's not just the coach, and it's not just facilities. You got to have the right combination of all that to be able to bring in the best. So match play will start today, and that's going to be exciting. It'll be on the SEC network, and you can tune that in. And Justin said, yes, they broke the team overall score too. So yeah, they've had a tremendous start to the SEC championships, and Sea Island is a place that they're very familiar with, and they play really well there, and they score really well. So we'll watch that closely and see how that kind of all plays out.
Hey, I'll spin it over to Alabama just real quick. I watched this past Sunday, JT getting off the snide.
Oh yeah, got that win.
What a putt he made. To come back and to stick that one close.
The hometown guy blew it, man.
He sure did. He blew it on the 18th hole, and then they had to come back and play the same hole. And I think it'd been several years since he had won a tournament.
He'd been in a drought.
He played good in the Masters. He wasn't at a winning pace, but he was right there in the mix. So look, we all are proud of our players that we can follow. And I think Auburn, with this swing that we're having in college golf, we're about to have quite a few players on that circuit that we're going to be able to keep up with for a generation to come.
Yeah. I mean, Carson Baca, Brendan Valdez, Jackson Coivin, man, these jokers are just unbelievable. I mean, when you're in ninth place and shot 7 under, Yeah, I don't need to be around that. But like you said, we're all big Auburn fans. Braden's into golf. That's what he wants to do as a career, is be a superintendent and all that. And he was pulling hard for JT. And he said, "Man, I really like JT." He said, "I know he's from Alabama, but he's like, man, he said I really like him as a golfer." And in that arena, everybody kind of pulls for everybody, man. You kind of have fun and chide each other about college and stuff, but everybody kind of pulls for one another and likes to see everybody be successful. So, all right, so we're going to take our final break on the show. When we come back, we'll run down a few of these stats regarding Alabama and Auburn when it comes to NFL draft, and we'll wrap it up here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Stay tuned. One final segment right after this.
It's crazy it's gotten as bad as it has.
What's that, the draft?
The draft discrepancy between the two schools.
It's not good, man. Well, it's what happens when you take 4 or 5 years off. I mean, and you literally.
Yeah, but this has been.
Well, he's a different guy, man, and that's the thing.
It's been a decade plus, hasn't it?
Nobody done what he's done.
What was that stat with Auburn and Vandy being the last?
That 5. I've got it right here. We hadn't had a first-round draft pick. We haven't had a first-round draft pick in 5 years. Vanderbilt ain't had one since 2008. We're the 2 longest streaks in the SEC without a first-rounder. So, it is what it is, man. And the results show on the field. It's what I said all week on the podcast. I've said it a billion times. I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. There's a direct correlation to what you're putting in the draft and your results on the field. If you're playing in this league, now you play in some of these other conferences, you can win 8-9 games and not have a bunch of draft picks. I mean, you ain't winning 9-10 games in this league and putting 3 guys in the draft and they're going in the 6th and 7th round. That ain't happening, man. You just ain't. You might sneak up because somebody plays bad and you play great and you beat them by a field goal. But, you line up and everything's even. They got the best players. You lose.
Yep. A couple of years ago at home, got it won.
Yeah, Deion getting in Twitter wars back earlier this year didn't help either. I know he probably defended Shedeur, but like when that guy, they were doing something, I can't remember, after a game, he said, "You need to tell your son to stop acting like whatever, putting up a 4-8 season." And he came back and he said, "My son will be a top 5 pick. Where your son going? I got time today." Well, I didn't age well. I can tell you that. So, I mean, just don't do that, man. I mean, it's like you cannot give ammo to people that are behind the keyboard, man. Like, people take shots at me and you and everybody else. We're doing something that 98% of the people out there would absolutely be terrified to do. And because when you put yourself out here like this and you give your opinion and you give your take, you're going to have a bunch of people think you're stupid and tell you that and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. And you got to have the thickest skin in the world. You got to go, yeah, I probably am stupid on a lot of stuff, but not on this. And so everybody's a keyboard warrior, man. I mean, but you can't fire back a shot at a guy that's telling you to tell your son to calm down because y'all are 4-8 and say, "Well, my son going to be a top 5 pick. Where's your son at? I'll wait." Well, you waiting too. You still waiting. You didn't say what round he'd be a top 5 pick in, but you just said he'd be a top 5 pick. I guess he'll be a top 5 pick in the 4th round.
I thought for sure he'd go yesterday.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Here's a stat for you. Most NFL draft picks since 2000. Ohio State, 167. Alabama, 164. And Georgia, 157. LSU, 154. And then it drops to the 130s with Florida and Miami and USC, and then so forth and so on. Auburn is down at 90, but Auburn is in the top 20 most NFL draft picks since 2000, but that's the difference in the top end and the bottom end of that of that list. And so, again, you want to look at it and see why there has been a run of 4 straight years of losing seasons for Auburn. And I know this goes back 25 years. I'm not saying
you're spending, and that's the best case scenario. If you take it back to 2000, I would guess Auburn between 2000 and 2007 had a pretty good run of NFL draft picks.
They had a lot in the early years.
Yeah, so I think
I would just say 2000, 2010 period.
I think if you go from 2000 and
the last 15 years have been terrible.
Terrible. I bet the number.
Well, in the last 18 years, you and I and Jason talked about it Monday. In the last 18 years, Auburn's only had 8 offensive linemen drafted. 8. I mean, and it ain't like all of them have been first rounders. Now, you got some guys mixed in that got drafted the 4th, 5th round, whatever. So,
well, and it's back to what we were talking about with Shedeur a little bit earlier. I mean, those are stats that the people that are making those decisions, it's their livelihood, and it's what they do for a living. And
they're making a business decision.
So when the business decision is the players that you're sending my way aren't good enough, like Auburn in the NBA before Bruce Pearl,
right?
Like you can come up with a million different reasons why and try to spin it in a positive direction. There's no way to spin that in a positive direction.
Now, I will say this about this year's draft. I don't think anybody was expecting an Auburn player to go in the top 3 rounds. I will say some of the receivers that were drafted over KLS, and to have him 200th still left on the best players available list, all the way down at 200. I mean, so am I missing something there, dude? I think that guy is
you probably you probably are. You probably missing.
I have to be missing something.
Because there's either a 40-yard dash running time or an athleticism question, or there's something. I mean,
Jacquez Hunter, will we see him go here in the 4th or 5th round? Could.
I think he's good enough to go in that range.
Eugene Asante, probably will see him come off somewhere around the 6th.
Very, very questionable size-wise.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's the intangible thing that the NFL, again, it's all based off numbers, and everything's a business decision, even the interviews. So your intangibles may be great. Your stats may be great. You go in here and act like a punk. They go, well, I ain't dealing with that. That ain't coming in our clubhouse.
And I really don't feel like that's been the case for Auburn. I think a lot of these guys have been really good guys that if they end up with an opportunity would do great. But
if you think stars don't matter, and I know we got a couple minutes before we got to go, and this is according to 24/7's rankings, out of the first round drafts, 81.3% of the first round draft picks were either a 5-star or 4-star. 11 5-stars, 15 4-stars. The rest of it was either there were 4 3-stars and 2 were not rated. And one of those guys that were not rated was Cam Ward. Can you believe that?
Tells you can come from nowhere and make it work.
It's an anomaly.
But the odds are that you won't. And because let's just talk about the kid that a couple of them that we've tracked over the last several years at Benjamin Russell that you and I call. I could have told you in the 7th grade, Darian Morgan, if pushed in the right direction, would be an NFL player. And 100%. Doesn't mean, but there's just some that you see that you're like, this is not a normal athlete. This is a special athlete. Malcolm Simmons, this is a special athlete.
Hey, let me close it for TV, and then we'll stay on for 2 or 3 minutes and finish. That's going to wrap it up for us here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. Again, want to thank everybody for joining us here each and every Saturday. Want to thank JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air for their longtime partnership. We'll be back with you again next Saturday for another edition of the Countdown. We'll stay on a little bit longer online, but we'll see everybody next Saturday. For Randy, I'm Brett saying we've enjoyed it. Hope you have. See you next time. Yeah, go ahead.
Just saying that, you can work yourself into something, but it's difficult at that level, because here's another thing about today's day and age with all of the travel sports and the opportunities that kids have from working out and 7-on-7s and man, you don't get the TOs of the world.
Right.
They don't get overlooked. You know, somebody's going to see you today. You know, 30 years ago when you and I were coming through school, I mean, unless somebody showed up on the hill,
you ain't gonna see.
Ain't nobody gonna see Scotty Vines. I'm just being honest. You know,
right.
Now, I know what kind of athlete he was. I know what a freak show of an athlete.
But there wasn't a bunch of outlets to get his stuff out there.
But in today's world, you know, if you take an athlete like that to a combine,
oh God,
I mean, heck, it'd only be one combine for him to have to go to before everybody in the world knew who he was. So it's completely different in today's
100%.
But Brett, talk about spring ball. What we got coming up May 1st?
Yeah, May 5th.
May 5th.
May 5th. May 5th, and then spring game will be on May 16th. I was going to talk about that a little bit today. We can talk about it next week. But going to start around 3:30 every day. Going to go 5 days and 5 days, and then that last day will be the spring game on May 16th. So going to be a big day. Come out and we're going to cover that game to some extent. I don't know exactly what we'll do. We'll have our whole team there, and you know, it's going to be a maroon white game. So we may do some.
Let's don't call the game.
We're not going to call it. We're going to go on the air and maybe do some interview stuff.
Love it.
And it's going to be different. It's going to be
I like that.
Yeah, we'll all be probably on the sideline and kind of doing some stuff. We won't be in the box. So yeah, it'll be different, but you know, we'll interview some of the players and some of the coaches. Yeah, we got a lot of them that we'll be able to catch up with. We'll put Faith to work down there. So she's going to be our sideline reporter in the fall. We'll let her do some of those interviews and kind of introduce her to everybody on the network. And then me and you and Wes will do what we always do. We'll go around and look and see what we think and talk to some of the kids. And I know the dance team's having their culmination. Man, this is awesome, by the way. They're putting on a dance camp for the first time. And, of course, Brindley's excited about it. You know, and Shannon does such a great job with the dance team. And, you know, when you do something for the first time, you don't know how many kids. You're like, well, I don't know how this is going to go. And, you know, if we have 20 or 30, that'd be great. They've got 120 girls signed up for this dance camp coming up that they're about to go through. And they're going to do it over several days. And then they're going to all perform at halftime of the spring game on the 16th.
Well, so it doesn't always work this way, but you've got a personal connection to this year. And, you know, my nephew's for the first time coming up, and I'm real excited about that. I think his ceiling's high. I'll leave it at that.
Sure.
Just going to have to work at it, but we'll be in the 10th grade. And so that adds a little bit. I'm going to have to try to deal with the same things you dealt with Braden. I don't really know. Man. I don't know if I'm going to do as good a job as you did. I
lost it toward the end though in his last game. I don't really ever want to go back and listen to that end of that Sylacauga broadcast. I think I went a little bit nuts, but I think that was the culmination of me for 3 years.
Yeah,
trying to hold it all in. That was one of the toughest stretches for me. I'll be honest with you. It's different when you have a kid out there playing.
Oh yeah, it's not the emotional. It's just you're actually a little even more of a fan. Like
right.
A little more of a
and you're trying to still do your job, but then you're still trying to watch your kid, and then you're trying to make sure he doesn't get hurt and all that, you know, and just there's all kind of stuff going on. But again, it was fun, but then it was kind of sit on the edge of your seat. But yeah, you'll do the same thing with Graham and as you know, Kendall gets older and comes up, and you know, it's a unique feeling that a lot of people don't get a chance to do, but it's great. It's got its positives to it, a lot of positives. But yeah, I'm excited about it. You know, all our kids are growing up, and time keeps on going by, and my hair keeps getting more white. And then, okay, so I've got to let this out of the bag a little bit, and this is way out of my comfort zone. Okay. So we were down there at Lake Martin Grocery yesterday, and Eric's like Tess does hair, you know. And so we're going to be down there next month, and we're going to be at her shop. She's got a salon. She's doing well, by the way, of course. I know you're surprised by that. She's kicking tail. And so Faith did something with her where while we're on the air, she's going to be doing some kind of highlights or something in her hair, right? We're going to be all these shows on the road going to have a different element to them. Well, Eric looked at me and he said, well, your hair probably needs a few highlights too. And I said, well, yours does too, dude. I said, have you looked in the mirror lately? And he said, I'll tell you what, he said, I'll get her to put some color in my hair if you'll let her put some in mine. So I said, okay, we'll do it. And of course, Faith's like, well, that's happening now. Both of y'all said it. You're doing it. So I don't know. They said we're going to do it on the air. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can handle this or not. So
I can't wait. You're going to look like George Clooney.
No, we're not going black. I'm not going to look like the Black Stallion up here or some pirate that's got their like Ryan Day that's got this beard that's black as smut. You're like, man, that dude ain't got that. But we're going to have a little bit because when the salt got more than the pepper, I'm starting to have a little problem. I've never been a salt guy anyway. I've been more of a pepper guy. And, I was fine with it when it was the pepper and the salt mix and the pepper was dominant. Now the salt's dominant, like way dominant. So, but I'm not going to go from this to the color of this iPhone and it's going to be solid black the next day. And everybody goes, what in the hell did that guy just do? So, but yeah, we're going to have fun with these shows and Lake Martin Pizza and down there with Tud at Byron's and Baumhauer's and, of course, JR's and everywhere that we're going, man, we can't thank everybody enough. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right, buddy. See y'all. Everybody have a good day.